Cool. And we can auto transcribe. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. All right, well, thank you all for coming tonight. We are the Young EcoSocialists of Arizona. This is our first youth organizing call. We're so happy that all of you can be here. We want to go ahead and start out tonight with a Indigenous land and labor acknowledgement. Basically just trying to be as respectful as possible and, give adequate acknowledgement of the land that we're on and of the labor that has led to us being here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Natalie. If she's on.
Yes, I was talking while muted. It was great. So I think it's important to acknowledge and pay respect to the original owners of these unceded Indigenous lands that we reside on here in Arizona. And I encourage, if you have not already, to learn more about whose land you live on through this link, and there's a fun app there. The 22 recognized tribes of Arizona are the Chimekwe, Chiricahua, Cocopa, Tsilhqot'in Apache, Havasupai, Hopi, Hualapai, Maricopa, Mojave, the Diné, Southern Paiute, Ikimo Otham, Kichung, Nene, Tiwa, Tahana Otham, Ute, Nde, Zali, Chitom, Yaqui, Yavapai, and the Zuni. That's all of them. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, there is a site over here. You can learn more about whose land you currently live on. This site's really cool because it has like an interactive map that shows you like the historical treaties and stuff and how that changes everything. And it's a really cool resource. So check it out if you get a chance. So welcome to everybody. We've sort of already done that, but I want to briefly take us through our meeting procedures here. Please try and keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking, just sort of video conference etiquette. We just want to make sure there's no weird feedback or things being interrupted. If you'd like to speak during our open discussion times, please say your name and then the word stack. So like I would say Cody stack if I wanted to speak, and then our stack taker, who is Natalie tonight, will ensure that everyone who wants to speak gets a chance. Again, while we encourage the use of your camera if possible, it's not necessary or required. Again, if you do not consent to appearing in the official meeting recording, please leave your camera off. Please be respectful of all hosts and attendees. Obviously, just don't be a jerk. And as much as you can, please try to save questions and comments for our allotted Q&A and open discussion times. Or alternatively, you can type them in the chat, and our chat moderator, which is George tonight, will try and respond to as many as possible. So we sort of want to introduce ourselves as co-founders just briefly. I'll go ahead and start, and then we can just go down the line. My name is Cody Hanna. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a member of the Green Party of Maricopa County and the Arizona Green Party. I am the media committee chair for Young EcoSocialists National, and I am also an ASU student studying music education. I am a dog dad. I have a beautiful little 2-year-old pug who is my life in stars, and she's adorable. So yeah, I will turn it over to Colette to do a little brief intro.
Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Colette Jennings. My pronouns are she, her. I am the chairperson for the Pima County Green Party. I am married. My husband's name is Adam, and we have 2 little black kitties named Bagheera and T'Challa, so they are my Black Panthers. I work at a local credit union as a loan officer and personal banker. Go ahead, George or Natalie.
Okay, well, my name is Natalie, and I'm the Minority Outreach Director for Green Party of Pima County. Um, and I'm also a TUSD educator. I'm 27 and mother and part of the LGBTQ community, um, as well as a registered Tohono member, and just excited to be here. Is George even here right now?
Let's see
Did
here.
we
Do we
lose
have
George?
George? Oh, we might have lost George. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, well, here's hoping that George will rejoin us here soon. Um, I'm going to resume our screen share and just sort of get us going again, and then if George comes back in, he can do his intro. But as far as keeping introductions going, we'd love to hear from some of you. So please introduce yourself. You can either do that in the chat, or please feel free to speak up, say your name and stack, and say what your name is, your pronouns, your age, where you're based, why you're here tonight, and I don't know, one fun fact about yourself. I usually like to go with something that's like not related to the general politics of what we're doing, something fun. So yeah, if anybody would like to start out, go ahead.
Colette Stack.
Colette, go ahead.
I forgot to say how old I am. I'm 28. And a fun fact about myself is I was homeschooled kindergarten through my senior year of high school. Over.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Sam Stack.
Rob Stack.
Sam, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam. I just turned 29 earlier this month, so I feel like I'm going to quickly age out of this. I don't know. It's flying by. I'm currently the vice chair of the Maricopa County Green Party, as well as on the state committee as an alternate delegate to the national committee. Oh yeah, Maricopa, but more specifically in Mesa. And a fun fact about myself, or just a fun fact in general, have a new kitty in the house. She was outside starving. I don't know. She's very skinny. I opened the door and she just ran in and said, "You're gonna take me in." So, very friendly, and she's gaining weight now. So, super happy about that. Over.
All right, I
Awesome.
think it was Dan next in the stack.
Hello, I'm Dan, he, him pronouns. I'm probably a little too old for this group because I'm 33. I'm based out of Tucson, Pima County. I was invited here by Colette, and I'm from the SRA group. I didn't think about a fun fact about myself before waiting. I don't have one, I'm afraid.
That's all right. Thank you.
All right, Adrian.
Golly Stack.
Okay.
So we had Adrian and then Gully on stack.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought he was going in front of me. Hi, my name is Adrian. I'm 22 years old. I live in Mesa, Arizona. I've been throughout the valley my entire life. I am currently a student in MCC. I'm studying political science, which is really interesting. And then a fun fact about myself is, besides, I have a beautiful daughter named Elena. She's wonderful. But also, I almost died playing with toy trucks when I was like 2 years old.
Wow. Thank you for joining us, Adrian. Gully was
these
next,
have-
I believe. Is that correct, Stack Taker?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny to tag along to that story. I almost died when I was like 10 or something because I tried to go. There's like a little toy truck that was down on a riverbed, and I tried to go down to get it, and my dad like yanked me out of the way because he saw a copperhead snake and it was like about to strike at me. So that was a kind of similar. But anyway, yeah, my name's Gully. Pronouns he, him. I'm 20. I'm about to be 29 in like 4 days or some shit. I'm in Tucson. I'm here just to see what you guys are all about and see how I can try to help push our society in a more positive and sustainable, equitable direction. Yeah, that's pretty much about it.
All right,
Awesome.
thank you. I believe it's Rob that's next.
Hello, I'm Rob. I'm 30 years old. I live in Glendale, Arizona. My pronouns are he and him, but I prefer to use the pronoun we whenever it's applicable. I mean, I'm here because, well, probably for the same reason as everybody else. I think that it's time to organize and mobilize in a more sustainable direction. I didn't really think about a fun fact about myself. Um, I am trying to start up a podcast. We do live streams every week, and I'm a musician. That's pretty much all I got.
All right, thank you. And we got Trey.
Hi, I'm Trey. I'm 19. I use any pronouns, non-binary. And I live in Phoenix. I'm a student at Phoenix College. I'm here tonight because of my organization, Youth for Liberation Arizona. We're just trying to find more organizations to like work with and help support. And a fun fact about myself is I make experimental music.
The stack is now empty.
Awesome. Anybody else feel like introducing themselves? Give it maybe one more second. No? Okay, that's fine. We're going to move into a little group discussion here to basically just, talk amongst ourselves about, what are some of the issues that our community is facing right now. I know COVID has hit everybody hard. It's made things that were hard before even harder. So we want to know, share with us just a little bit about what are some issues that you and your communities are facing. How are you being affected, and what are some things you'd like to see done about these issues? And this last point down here, this final bullet point here is sort of something that I would love for us all to sort of think about throughout this first meeting, being what would/could you do about these issues if you had a statewide network of support from fellow like-minded young activists and volunteers? Because I think that can be really powerful, and that's really a big part of what we're trying to do here. So I kind of want to just open up the floor to anybody who'd like to speak.
George Stack.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm so sorry. My internet cut off right when my portion was announced. So I'm just gonna introduce myself really quickly here. So my name is George Scone, and I'm one of the co-founders of Young EcoSocialists of Arizona. I'm just an amateur gardener and urban planning student right now, and I'm just very thankful for everyone that showed up because we really need more young eco-socialist voices to be heard. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, George. So yeah, would anybody like to start out our group discussion here? If not, I can start us out. So for me, I live in Chandler, Arizona, and it's generally a wealthier population. Um, but all around this area, housing is impossible to find, especially if you're like straight out of college. If you're working a minimum wage job, you can't even find a one bedroom for less than like $1,000. It's almost impossible to get good health care. Schools around here are okay, but overall Arizona has a lot of work to do in regards to our education system. And you can see it really create a big divide in the haves and have nots of our local communities as much as it is the state and the country as a whole. So that's some things that I sort of think about when it comes to what my community is currently facing.
All right, Rob.
I think that a good starting point for our communities in general, being, I assume that most of us are in the valley, as I recall, but I think a good place to start would be green spaces and food insecurity. I also definitely agree with housing, which Cody also already talked about. But when I say green spaces, I mean, it seems like every city in the valley plants a bunch of palm trees everywhere that are not native. They don't provide a lot of shade. There are trees that are native to here that do produce shade, and well, shade is one small step that can be taken in making the valley a slightly more habitable place to live. And community gardening, I think, would be a good way to begin to address food insecurity and food deserts more generally.
All right, thank you, Rob. Colette.
Thank you, Natalie. So I live on the south side of Tucson. So I know that here in my neighborhood, one of the things that concerns just us over on this side is the highest levels of the PFAS family of toxic compounds ever found in the Tucson area are in our aquifer. So the drinking supplies aren't contaminated, but there are some private wells that are. Currently, it's 200 times the EPA's health advisory recommendation for drinking water. So unfortunately, this is a poorer part of town. It has a lot more minorities than other parts of Tucson. And we've got the airport here, we've got Raytheon over here, and we have the base. So unfortunately, a lot of places have been polluting the water on this side of town. So that's definitely something that not everybody talks about, but is a huge issue over here on my side of town. Over.
All right.
All right, is our stack clear at the moment?
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay. Oh, was that somebody trying to talk?
Yes, George.
Yes, I would have to agree with what Rob said earlier. I would agree with you that something else that contributes to that lack of like green spaces is the privatization of it all too. I mean, the few spaces where we can congregate as people tend to also be, places of commerce and business that are privatized. And so that is something that I see kind of lacking out here, especially in the East Valley. There's a lot of space for developers to privately develop, but their intentions aren't in the interest of everyone else. So I agree with that. Something that we should look into shifting so that we can be more sustainable, especially here as a desert city.
The stock is empty.
Alrighty. Well, unless anybody has anything else to add, we can go ahead and move on from this a little bit. I encourage you all to continually keep thinking about these things, because it's really what the purpose of our organization is to identify these things and work to fix them. So moving right along, I'm going to turn it over to Colette for a little breakdown of who the Young Eco-Socialists are, what we stand for, and yeah, just a little bit about us. So Colette, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Cody. Who are the Young Eco-Socialists? We are the young adults who have been ignored by corporate politicians on both sides of the aisle. We are the young adults who were sent to the front lines of a deadly pandemic as essential workers. We are the young adults who are drowning in student loan debt because we were pressured to earn expensive degrees by a generation who paid for their education with part-time jobs. We are the young adults who have to work more than one job and live with roommates well into our late 20s and early 30s because the cost of living has skyrocketed while wages stay stagnant. We are the young adults who were children when we watched a terrorist attack on live TV. We are the young adults who grew up practicing active shooter drills and watching children our age die from gun violence in the classroom. We are the young adults who volunteered to go to war because we love our country, only to learn that our government was committing war crimes for foreign oil and financial gain. We are the young adults who have grown used to large natural disasters. What would have been considered once-in-lifetime occurrences have become routine events. We are the young adults who will suffer from the effects of climate change while our leaders ignore the solutions offered by science in favor of financial gain. We are the young adults who avoid routine medical checkups because even if our employer offers health insurance, the premiums, deductibles, and co-pays add more stress to our already stretched wallets. We are the young adults who pay into the Social Security program today with no guarantee that those benefits will be there for us when we need them. We are the young adults who wonder what our future looks like because the life our parents dreamed for us was robbed by greedy politicians and corporations. We are the young adults who have watched the American dream morph into the American nightmare. Who are the Young Eco-Socialists? We're you. So I do want to thank everyone again for being here. Cody, can you move over to the next slide? So what we're going to do is kind of go over what is eco-socialism and what it's not. So I know that a lot of people, when they hear eco-socialism, they'll think that we're just out here talking on Twitter about what it is that we want without actually going out and doing it. That's not what we are. We are not total government or state control over your life or state capitalism. We are not organized from the top down. We are not oppressive. We're not going to buy into the colonial imperialistic idea that this country was founded on. And we're not green capitalism or green military, where we just slap green on everything like capitalism has done over the last decade. What we are is a political ideology that merges anti-capitalist economics, ecological sustainability, anti-oppression, and grassroots green politics. One of the things that I love about eco-socialism is it's not limited to just the United States. This is a global phenomenon, and we're not alone in our fight. We have the knowledge that we do need to change our society, and that what we do is directly connected to our environment, hence eco-socialism. With the Green Party, did we move to the next slide, Cody? Thank you. So we have 4 pillars that are the foundation of what it is that the Green Party and eco-socialists stand for. That is peace, ecology, social justice, and democracy. So everything that we do falls back on one of these pillars. And you'll see that in the policies that we are fighting for, the decisions we make, the way we even treat each other. Next slide, please. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to get into more detail about our 10 key values. So this is the detail behind those 4 pillars. One of the things that I find most inspiring about our 10 key values is you can take them and apply it to just about any ideology that we currently have going on in the United States. I actually have a close friend who is a Trump supporter. And when I asked her, how can someone so smart vote like that? The things that she was bringing up, I could tie into our 10 key values. And I believe that what our job is to educate our communities about how eco-socialism will work to bring our country back to where we need it to be so that we can build a better future for ourselves and those who come after us. What we'd like to do is open up the floor for general discussion about what eco-socialism is, answer any questions that you may have, or just listen, because that's one of the things that we think is most important, is to hear what you have to say. The floor is open.
Trey, Stack.
Yes, Trey.
I just kind of had a question about like the Green Party. Like, what exactly is the connection between like the eco-socialist groups across the nation and the Green Party? Because obviously, like, you guys are grassroots, whereas Green Party is like an established political party. So I'm just kind of wondering like what the connection is and if they like support you or how that works.
Cody, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Young EcoSocialists are nationally the youth caucus of the Green Party US. So what we are is a chapter of that larger youth caucus. So we aim to serve, and this will show up in this next slide as well, hopefully. Policy demands, we can come back to that. Basically, yeah, so we are a green organization, but we don't want to just do electoral political work, you know? So I hope that answers your question. So we are supported by the National Green Party Youth Caucus. We are a chapter of that caucus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that kind of that more or less answers it.
Okay, cool.
All right, Adrian.
Yes, I guess a question that I have about the the Young Eco-Socialists is what is I guess I don't know if this is that great of a question, but what sort of like what are we working towards? What does it look like when we reach our goals?
So we're actually going to get to that a little bit later on when we address our overall mission and goals. In a nutshell, it's essentially half electoral organizing and half or more of community action. So that's sort of our broad split between what we are out to accomplish. We have our electoral goals, which are, through the Green Party, but we also want to directly meet the needs of our community in whatever way we can. So it's sort of, two-pronged approach at change, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
George, Stack.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of answer like Adrian's question. I guess beyond like the current missions that we have, which Cody kind of touched on in the sense that we want to be we are working towards being a grassroots movement, as well as working within the political systems that we currently have. But ultimately, and at the global scale, green politics in general is an answer to capitalism in a world where, capitalism has pretty much consumed and destroyed everything and has affected all parts of life. And so eco-socialism kind of gives an answer to that, to addressing them at a systemic level and not just at a, attaching green to a label or something, but also implementing that into politics. And not only that, but working to dismantle the systems that allowed it to begin with. Over.
I think that gives me a better, I'm sorry, I think that gives me a better idea as well. Thank you.
Dan?
Yes, hello. I was more curious about your attempts at electoralism, namely of how do you plan on engaging in electoralism that is different than the last, election cycle or the other election cycles in general of failed electoralism.
Sorry, can you rephrase for us? I think I sort of get the gist of what you're asking, but just so I'm perfectly
I
clear.
was mainly in regards to your electoralism tactics. I was wondering how are they different than the failed electoral tactics of previous tries and whatnot.
Okay, so at least the way that I see it personally, um, everything we're doing is led with youth activists and that kind of energy, and so we're likely not going to be shooting for huge goals of like state legislature or senator or all of that straight out of the gate. We're probably going to focus more on what we can do locally to achieve change as we grow and as we sort of expand as a caucus and as an organization. I definitely think that there are a lot of roadblocks that as independent politics, it kind of comes with the game a little bit, but they're not insurmountable. It just takes energy and organization, and with enough of both, we can be successful.
Thank you, Cody. Colette?
Thanks, Natalie. One of the things that I personally have started doing is I went this last week on my neighborhood's Facebook page and I created a poll and I asked my neighbors, what is a mutual aid project that would benefit our neighborhood? And I put down things that I was thinking, like a food drive, clothing drive, carpooling, things that I see other people doing. And I actually got responses I wasn't expecting. What they want is speed bumps that they've been asking for because a lot of people race through this neighborhood. And I know on Halloween night, one kid was almost killed by almost getting hit by a car. And that's something that they've just been asking for and asking for. They've reached out to all these different people and they're just being ignored. They also want a neighborhood watch because right now, if someone's breaking into your car and they call the police, no one comes. And so they feel ignored. And I didn't realize that that was an issue here in my neighborhood and I live here. So what my goal is with this is to get to know my neighbors, find out what it is that they want, what do they need, let them meet me because I want to show them, here's who I am, here's what I'm about. Let's work together to get what you want. And then I can show you what else we can do together. Because I think that a really, really big thing that all the major parties are missing is they've lost the trust of the people. And once they get into office, unfortunately, the way our political system is set up, it's set up to oppress people. It wasn't designed for everyone. It wasn't designed for women. It wasn't designed for minorities. And getting people in there, while it's an accomplishment, it doesn't do exactly what we need it to do. We need to go out there and listen to the people. What is it that you want? And figure out a way to get it for them. And that just means that we've got to get out there. We've got to listen. And we have to do the hard work and not just talk about it on the internet. Colette, over.
Thanks, Colette. George?
Yes, definitely would agree with Colette as how that would be a strategy. And that's also kind of adding into to Dan's question as to strategies. And it's by embracing from the bottom up politics. We don't take money from corporations, and that is a big deal when it comes to who a politician actually serves once they're elected. And like Colette said, it's about like restoring the trust of the people, building actual grassroots democracy. And although we always run a presidential candidate, it is often the local offices that are, well, that's probably what's our best bet. So like Colette said, just starting with our local area would be a great idea.
Since the stack is empty, I just want to add one thing. Um, I've been attending some of the, recent meetings for the Green Party. And I've just been observing for years. Just not even just in politics, but like school board meetings and so on. They're often ran by these older people who filibuster and waste time on just the most like tiniest details, and you're sitting there just thinking to yourself like, we're not even talking about what we came here to talk about anymore. So I think one of the differences with us is that we're younger, and we're not going to just sit here and talk about whether we should use the word or and and not devolve into actual like fighting and slander, which you would think you wouldn't see at these types of meetings. Like, you would think, oh, these are adults, they'll act like adults, and then they don't. And you know you look around and look for somebody who is seeing things the way you're seeing them. And I think that us as like a youth group, a young adults, we've all been through this. We understand that we're a little bit frustrated, and so I think we have the energy and the ability to kind of push the older people that are ruining things aside and push our agenda and get it through, because we actually are ready, and we don't have the privilege to just sit here and talk. Over.
Awesome. Thank you all. So we touched on a little bit of this, but I did sort of want to reinforce this idea of why joining the Green Party and organizing with a larger community of eco-socialists is important. So for one, the Green Party is already, as far as policy is concerned, mostly aligned with us on our larger goals. We all want the same thing of universal health care. We want to make sure everybody's housed. We want to make sure we have an eco-socialist Green New Deal to save our planet. Free, full ride public education. These are all things that we want as progressives, as leftists, as people who want the best for the general human interests of society. Furthermore, the party infrastructure isn't perfect, but it already exists and it's pretty sturdy. The Arizona Green Party, I believe, was founded in 91. So been around about 20, 30 years now. And it's really just the only thing that it needs is young energy to be successful. We just need people to be in it and to really want to build that vehicle for change up into something that we can be proud of. Which leads us to, of course, the question of why not the Democrats? And, personally, I think there is room for a lot of approaches to change. My personal approach does not involve the Democratic Party because they've shown us that they're only on the side of corporations and the ultra wealthy. We saw it with Barack Obama, we saw it with Bill Clinton, and now we're seeing it with Biden, who's already going back on all of his campaign promises. And it really just boils down to the fact that neoliberalism is fundamentally incapable of adequately addressing the crises that we face right now. And that includes, the climate catastrophe that is just getting progressively worse. It includes the economic collapse that we're facing, that we have, as young people, we faced like 3 once-in-a-lifetime recessions in, 20 years-ish? The rising tide of very far right fascism. It's a scary time to be alive, and neoliberalism, in the extent that the Democrats currently are practicing it, is just, it's not up to the task. It's not up to the task of defending people, planet, or peace. So it's time for us as young people to organize around a new electoral vehicle for the change we desperately need. what is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, it's about time that we stop doing the same thing over and over again and try something new. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to George now to sort of talk about our mission and our goals.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for being here again. Just very excited to, to meet everyone and eventually get to work with everyone towards the goals that we have and the missions that we want to see see happen. So our missions, what are our missions and what do we want to achieve? So as we were kind of touching on earlier, it's kind of like in two parts. So on the electoral organizing part, we would want to serve as the official youth caucus of the Arizona Green Party and as the Arizona chapter of the youth caucus at the national level. So we want to build the Green Party as an electoral vehicle to advocate for the policies that we want to see implemented. And those are based on our 4 pillars and the 10 key values. We also want to organize and mobilize young people in Arizona away from the corporate parties and into an independent eco-socialist party for the working class. And recruit and assist new green voters, volunteers, activists, fundraisers, campaign staff, and candidates. On the community level, we'd like to recognize that change that we desperately need and that change isn't going to be achieved solely on the electoral system alone, which we can recognize as a system that wasn't built to function for everyone. It's a product of colonization, of white supremacy. It's violent. It isn't designed to accomplish the necessities of everyone. And so that's why we also want to actively engage, organize, educate, and mobilize our community members so that we can identify what it is that we truly need to be doing in our communities. And actually bring back grassroots democracy into politics. We want to be the actual voice of the people. So we would like to do whatever is in our power to help meet those needs of our communities and empower each other to fight for a more just society. So by building community amongst ourselves as eco-socialists, as well as by serving the collective organizing of the Young EcoSocialists statewide. If you could please, yes, thank you so much. So our goals, some of our long-term goals are focused on growing, educating, and action. So by getting as many young people in Arizona as possible to register as Greens, we not only organize within the inside but outside of the electoral politics. So the more people are registered Green and are voting for Green candidates, the more people, the more power. But it also sends a message to the establishment that we actually want to vote for what we believe in. We see it very often that we're left with this like lesser of two evils, and we unfortunately funnel progress to the mislabeled left, which isn't the Democratic Party at all. It misrepresents and it takes away that momentum. And we see the DNC as a dead end to progress. So by growing our numbers and registering Green, we send a message to the Democrats, Republicans that we no longer want to be part of their system. By also educating our members, fellow young people, our communities, and problems of the capitalist toxicity and its negativity on our daily lives. So by pointing out these structures that were built to oppress marginalized groups of people, by educating and calling these structures out, is how we're able to advocate for the eco-socialist response to these problems. Because to me personally, as someone who considers myself as an abolitionist, someone who wants to work towards dismantling the systems that were built to oppress people of color, women, minorities, it was just not built for everyone to live out their fully human potential. To me, the most, you know, the next response to this violent capitalism would be eco-socialism, because ultimately I see it as a kind of as a route towards, communism, to eco-communism, to a place where we can, be away from these systems that were built to oppress. Because the reality is that we can work within these political systems as much as we want, but we all, we'll come to realize that these issues are much more deeper, and we need to actually think about how we're dismantling the systems that aren't built in our favor. So this will take us to action. So by taking action as a caucus to help our communities directly and meet their immediate needs. So this way we will fight for eco-socialist policy change through both electoral and at the community level. If you can switch it. Thank you. So our first priorities, sorry. What are some of the Young EcoSocialists' first priorities and projects? So first, we would need to elect a caucus steering committee in order to truly begin our operations as a caucus. We must nominate and elect members to the steering committee. At a minimum, we would need 5 members who will be voting. So that would be a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer. We would need to also participate in the Arizona Green Party ballot access petitioning. So the Arizona Green Party, we need about 32,000 ballot signatures by November of 2021 to regain statewide ballot access and to be able to run our candidates on the ballot line in 2022. And, this to me is kind of important because, even if we don't actually win at the federal level, having our names on the few places where we can show ourselves on is, one step towards being able to be within those systems. And unfortunately, the two-party system has dedicated itself to obstruct us from being on those ballots. So this is why petitioning for our ballot access is so important as one of our first projects and priorities. We also need to start drafting our caucus bylaws. So our caucus bylaws must be drafted and voted. I'm sorry, I'm seeing the So our caucus must draft and vote to approve our bylaws for us to be an official and accredited chapter of the Young EcoSocialists national level and receive the benefits and resources of that accreditation. Something else that we'd like to prioritize is organizing for ranked choice voting in Arizona. So Voter Choice Arizona is currently leading that change in the way that leading the charge in organizing for ranked choice voting in Arizona. A lot of our members here are also working with that organization, and it benefits us electorally because it offers that spoiler effect kind of stigma to kind of be addressed, because oftentimes in the way that, again, because of the way that our electoral system is built on anti-democratic structures, the ranked choice voting allows us to vote without feeling like, our vote would go to waste. So if you haven't heard about ranked choice voting, it's something that is really cool because it helps expand democracy. Something else we'd like to emphasize on is outreach and education. So we need to reach, recruit, and educate as many local young people as possible, spread our message across the state, and try to build up on our numbers of registered and active members. And something that I've seen about this kind of the ideas that we talk about, if you're not really familiar with what the Green Party stands for, what eco-socialism stands for, a lot of the things that I see people, because I'm 20 years old, a lot of people, things that I see people my age stand for, you know, Medicare for all, free education, um, a lot of these progressive policies that we see as, well, just basic human needs are something that we back up and we believe in. And so I guess just educating young people who want to make a change or who want to be more politically involved, that what they believe in actually does exist somewhere. There are other people. Because for me personally, it was a matter of, I mean, it's what we're doing right now, right? We want to let other people know that, yes, the things that you want to see implemented in government and politics, it's out there. You know, we exist. Something else we want to emphasize as our first priority would be direct action and mutual aid. So once our action committee is functioning, we must utilize our caucus membership and infrastructure to do whatever we can to meet the needs of our communities and elevate their voices. So this goes back again to, you know, our emphasis on grassroots democracy and involvement. You know, we've seen a lot of mutual aid organizations popping up lately because of COVID or because of, you know, the effects of the volatile capitalist market and just the effects of you know, a system that wasn't built to deal with a phenomena like a pandemic. And the government isn't necessarily really caring to address these issues. So we help ourselves. You know, we need to be the people to help ourselves, because the government won't. So that's why we need to be there with the people we're trying to ultimately represent. You know, so I believe
Awesome.
that is
Thank you,
all.
George.
Thank you. Over.
We're going to turn it over to Natalie now to kind of do a brief description of how our caucus works, just the overall structure, how we operate, make decisions, and also membership criteria. So Natalie, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. So we have our sort of core steering committee officers, right? The chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. And those are more focused on the general overall. So like the secretary is the note taker, they would draft and send meeting minutes, manage any kind of documentation and emails. The treasurer managing finances, keeping accurate records, helping with fundraising, you know, drafting a budget and coordinating with the Arizona Green Party treasurer. And then the chair and vice chair focused on general caucus management, onboarding new members, and acting as a youth eco-socialist Arizona representative to the Arizona Green Party and the youth eco-socialist nationalist, eco-socialist national. The three main things we're focused on, right, are media/outreach, action, and education. And so those will also require, you know, sort of committee chairpersons to be working in those different areas. And media is going to include everything from social media and graphics to press releases and newsletters. Our action committee would be working on the actionable things like protests and petitions, some phone banking, canvassing, campaign work, sort of all the stuff Colette's been up to lately. And education, I like that the idea of like being able to have some book clubs, you know, some, you know, fun stuff there, but also policy discussions, arranging guest speaker presentations, talking about eco-socialist theory, and even some training seminars. You know, I think that some of us have surrounded ourselves by people that, you know, are very understanding of like what's going on, what are like our priorities as like a community and all that. But in the wider world of what's going on, there are a lot of people who they just don't know the things they don't know. And so I really think that the education community is going to be really important. And all these communities would be, working sort of in concert together. And the specific things we'd be doing is just going to depend on, what each individual community requires, right? So, yeah. And then as far as caucus operations and decision making, our caucus members elect our caucus steering committee, and the steering committee operates through a sort of consensus vote on any matters of caucus business, and the working committees operate largely kind of independently under the direction of their committee chairperson. And then they would come back and sort of explain what they're doing and what they're up to the larger group. And and do so regularly. Members would work together on projects and actions in their chosen working committees. So, if you have something very specific that you're interested in, you can just work in that committee that's going on. If you have more time on your hands, you could be working in multiple committees. So there's some choice there. And our caucus would operate both independently and also in cooperation with the Arizona Green Party and its county chapters, right? Because some of our members are actually part of the county chapters. Like I am a Green Party of Pima County representative. And I'm also working, with the ranked choice voting people and the policy stuff. It's interesting. The next one. So caucus membership, general membership is going to be open to any resident of Arizona between the ages of 14 and 35 who consistently attend and participate in caucus meetings and events, agree with the mission, goals, and values of the Yes Arizona Caucus, and claim membership in no other political party but the Green Party. Caucus members are considered in good standing so long as they're between the ages of 18 to 35, they're registered voters with the Green Party, and are due paying members of Yes National and fulfill all the above requirements of general membership. And so only the caucus members considered in good standing would have the ability to propose and vote on caucus affairs, including nomination and election of our caucus steering committee. You don't have to be an officially accredited member of the caucus to attend and participate in caucus meetings and events. That's welcome to all potential members to attend, observe, learn, get to know us a while before deciding on joining, not holding anyone's feet to the fire. And while all caucus events are open to the public, any sort of non-participating observers, those who are not able to be considered potential members, they will not be included in the meeting stack unless specifically addressed, invited, or called upon to speak. So that way we really have the people who are our young voices and, really active members, hearing their voices more than everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. So this is what we need from you. If you came today and you were excited about the prospect of, having a collective of like-minded youth, here's what we need. First, if you haven't already, and most of you have, I think pretty much all of you have, fill out our Yes Arizona Google sign up form. That should have gone out to just about everybody. If you haven't signed up yet, go ahead and do that. It takes like 5 seconds, and it'll help us get you situated into a role that would best fit you. If you're over the age of 18 and eligible to register to vote in Arizona, please, please, please register with the Green Party. Now, this is super important, especially if you want to be an active voting member of the AZGP Youth Caucus, right? Because generally, you kind of just have to be part of the group to get to decide what the group does, right? But yeah, please register green. The next thing you can do is sign up for the Young EcoSocialists National Caucus and pay caucus dues. You can do that at www.yesgp.org/join. They make it really easy to just sign up there, and Chanel, our accreditation chair, gets people where they need to go really quickly. And then, yeah, to pay caucus dues. Caucus dues for national are really affordable. They're $10 a year. So, you know, that's like couch cushion money, right? But if you can't afford that for whatever reason, you can always apply to the Yes Solidarity Fund, which is basically our setup at the national level to help anybody who, for whatever reason, can't pay dues. So there are options out there. You can also follow, like, and share our content and our meeting announcements on social media. That's super helpful. That helps us get the word out even farther. Helps us make sure that new people are joining and getting to know what we sort of want to do with this organization. And, you know, also, you know, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell your partners, tell everybody. We really appreciate anything that you folks can do to help us spread the word about what we're trying to do here. And you can also, what we hope you all do is attend our next meeting, which is Thursday, the 11th of March at the same time. And we're just going to keep doing like every other Thursday night. We're going to meet up on Zoom and we're going to talk about something that has to do with eco-socialism or the Green Party, or yeah, it'll be just a regular chance for us all to sort of touch base with each other and come together as eco-socialists. So I kind of want to, let's see where we're at on time. We're running really ahead of time. So I'd like to sort of open it up as much as possible for the next, I don't know, however long we want to talk, to just sort of do an open discussion and Q&A sort of thing with anybody who would like to speak or share. Or so, yeah.
Colette Stat.
Colette.
Thank you. So one of the things that I kind of wanted to point out, because I know that some people have said in the past, like, well, I don't really want to register green. I want to stay registered as a Democrat so I can vote in the primaries. And the reason why I really want to encourage those who are still registered Democrat to change that to green is because it helps us in just about everything related to electoral politics. I worked on the Howie Hawkins campaign last year. And in 2019, the Green Party in Arizona got over 10,000 signatures. Like, it was before COVID. They went out, they got all the signatures saying, yes, it's okay for the Green Party to be on the ballot and run their candidate. And then the state of Arizona was like, actually, 10,000 is not enough. You now have 4 months to get 38,000 signatures, and it's now a pandemic. So we tried to challenge that in court and we lost. So we lost our ballot access in an election year, and we had to run our candidate as a write-in. We couldn't even put him in as an independent. So by registering green, you're saying, hey, I believe in the Green Party and it is an actual party. We are a democracy. You can't just change the rules because you're seeing that we're getting what you required. So right now I tell people, register green. It's not an election year. You have nothing to lose. All we're doing is showing our strength. We're showing our numbers. And it scares the establishment when we do that. I don't know if any of you have seen the new movie that came out recently about Fred Hampton, the Black Panther in Chicago, who was assassinated by the FBI when he was 21. They assassinated him because he was able to get the people together to say, this isn't working for us. We're going to work together as a group to have what we want. We know it's going to work because it threatens the powers that be to the point that they'll kill over it. We're not going to fight racism with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We say we're not going to fight capitalism with Black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. That's one of his most famous quotes. We can't put out the fire that capitalism has set with more capitalism and with more of the same old, same old. We need water. And the Green Party is an eco-socialist party. We can make a change if we have the people behind us. Over.
Thanks, Colette. Sam?
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to jump off of what Colette was talking about in registering green, it's very important registering your values, even if you do decide to vote strategically, which of course I'm not promoting, but if you do have that concern, decide to vote strategically, the general elections are still open to everyone, so you can be a registered Green, which does help the Green Party gain and maintain ballot access, so everyone has more choices in the future. And yet you could still decide to not vote Green Party, but having that registration is very important. So yeah, throughout most of, throughout the whole election cycle, of course, if you decided you wanted to vote in another party's primary, you could change within that deadline and then change back. It just really helps the Green Party if you maintain for as much as possible registration, so we can get our numbers up and have more candidates and have more choices for everyone. Thank you. Over.
Thanks, Sam. The stack is empty.
Alrighty. No other questions, comments, general thoughts? I mean, this is pretty informal. Like, if you
George,
just
stack. Sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask everyone, like, who had heard about the Green Party before, or like what attracted you to want to join tonight. And I just wanted to ask that out to anyone who would like to answer. I see Trey is in the stack.
Trey, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a couple questions actually, but I'll kind of answer yours first. What kind of attracted me was that I hadn't seen like a ton of like eco-minded movements. Most of the stuff I'd seen just kind of had it like in mind as just something that would happen. Like if we end capitalism, then there just won't be a climate problem anymore. But the thing that kind of like attracted me to it was because it's kind of in line with like what a lot of indigenous movements run off of. And so that was kind of like a question I had, was like, what is the role of, like, as far as like what y'all are envisioning, what is the role of like indigenous organizations or movements like in your movement for climate justice, especially with like what's going on with Oak Flat and Apache Stronghold. And then my other question was about like how are you going to resist imperialism, you know, being in line with the Green Party, which is a political party in America, and even stuff like the Green New Deal, it relies on further plundering of the global South. And so, like, you know, if we're going to be eco-socialists in America advocating for socialism here, how do we keep from, you know, perpetrating fascism outside of the US at the same time?
Yeah, those are excellent questions, and I couldn't agree with you more that indigenous voices need to be very much at the forefront of any eco-socialist, well, any eco movement in America, given the fact that this is indigenous land. And you know, the nature of capitalism is very anti-human, anti-earth. It's a complete against everything that, I mean, for example, one way that the National Party upholds indigenous voices is something that Howie Hawkins had to run on a lot, is like reparations are huge. Something that the Green Party advocates for is reparations, and at least respecting the treaties that that were supposed to have been respected. When it comes to imperialism and just promoting of that, the Green Party is anti-war, and they are, well, we want to, dismantle the U.S. Military complex. The United States has over 800 bases worldwide. We are a neo-imperial. We pretty much are an empire, an oil company with a military, essentially. So aligning those views with the Green Party, as a party that's anti-war, would never vote for to go into a party, and just promoting peace throughout the world. And I kind of get your point too in what you say that, just I actually fully get your point in the fact that America as an empire is kind of hard to do that while working within the political system. But that's where we come in, and we believe that most of us, I would say, wouldn't vote for a war. Those are symptoms of a capitalist, empire. So, over.
Cody, Stack.
Rob?
So I think to also sort of piggyback on that, you asked how we.
I think Rob was.
Oh, we had Rob.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is Rob?
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
my bad.
Okay.
I was talking while I wasn't muted, or while I was muted. I'm also going to piggyback off of what was just said, but I don't think that being anti-war in policy is enough, because American business interests are going to do whatever the hell they want. They always have. So we need to figure out a way to really combat that as well. In terms of exploiting the global South, we can make batteries that are literally 100 times more efficient than lithium batteries from hemp, which we can legally grow in all 50 states. I know that batteries are only one part of the issue, but they're a very big part of the issue. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Rob. Cody?
Yeah, so sort of on a similar point, and I'm glad that you brought up the idea that, especially with the way that the Democrats have co-opted the Green New Deal and sort of, stripped it of all its of revolutionary potential, and that is not what we're looking to do. We're not looking to be, just like most of the social democratic states that, they have things going pretty well for them, but on the backs of, people in the global South. That is not what we're looking for in terms of eco-socialism. So, in terms of how do we advance our agenda of specifically in terms of ecology and getting us off of fossil fuels, on banning fracking and doing all that without stripping those resources from the global South, it's possible, and we can do it. It just takes the willpower to do it. And unfortunately, in our capitalist system, if there's no profit motive behind it, it's just not going to happen. So that's sort of why we are trying to move the thinking into, okay, what is best for people, planet, and peace, rather than, we're facing climate catastrophe in the face. How can we make a couple bucks off of it? Like, those are very different approaches to dealing with climate change. Over.
Yes. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's Toy.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I really appreciate all the discussion everyone's having. I just kind of want to maybe bring up a question that I'm just kind of sitting here wrestling with a little bit is, it sounds like y'all have a really broad agenda of stuff that you want to do, and a lot of like goals that you're working towards. And I've heard some things about like how, you want to see like a 50-50 balance between like electoral work and more like community organizing work. I'm just kind of curious as to like, how do you actually, in a practical sense, like balance those different demands, because sometimes they're like at competition for resources and energy and stuff. And what does that look like in practice for y'all?
George Stack.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, and I don't think that's something that like we need to stick on like a full on like 50-50 kind of deal. But it's just it's just a way for us to emphasize the grassroots democracy aspect of organizing and bringing that back into politics. You know, if we're going to function within this political system that often kills grassroots movements, or you know, it becomes funneled into the duopoly, by us emphasizing that, you know, we are from the bottom up organizing. So I personally don't think that it's necessarily like a 50-50 kind of split between, oh, we need to be doing, but it's really important that we embrace all aspects of like anti-capitalist movements and embrace all different avenues towards our essential goals. You know, it's, for example, me, I don't think that the current political structures will bring us the true justice that we need to see implemented, because fundamentally it was never designed to do so. But it's also a tool that we can function within to at least try to achieve some of those goals, but also backing up and being a part of movements that are happening locally. You know, there's a lot of abolitionist movements, land back movements, mutual aid movements, um, embracing those as well, and not just funneling all our energy into upholding a system that at the end of the day won't truly bring the justice we need to see, and embracing community. Over.
Colette Stack.
Go ahead, Colette.
So my answer to that question would be the way that we do 50-50 with the outreach and the electoral stuff is we need the people. We have to kind of go off of each other's strengths. Me and George are a good example. George is very good at going out and petitioning, like getting those signatures. And frankly, I hate doing that stuff. I hate our political system. This whole thing is outside of my comfort zone. I'm more about, let's get out there to the people. Let's find out what they're doing. Let's go help them any way we can. Because I'm going to bring some of the state drama into this briefly. I asked one of the co-chairs for the Arizona Green Party, what are we doing regarding the press that the Green Party in general is getting after what happened in the Midwest with that deep freeze? And he responded with, well, we need to get ballot access. And I was like, that doesn't answer my question. And frankly, I'm tired of those political answers. It's like, how about you just go out and do something, you know? Like, we're helping by, I don't know, donating some food to one of the shelters that they set up. Like, if you're not going to go out there and do it, then what's the point of getting those signatures? So having people with those different mindsets helps, because you need those people who are a lot more calm and who have that temperament where they can engage with different kinds of people and have those discussions. And then you have to have the people who are willing to just go out and make a lot of noise and make things happen. So that's why we're reaching out to as many different groups of people as possible, because it's important to kind of get those different personalities, because we're not going to get anywhere if we're all going to quietly sit in a book club together or simply donate food. That doesn't build this movement and doesn't shake things up. Colette, over.
Thank you all. I really appreciate both of those answers, especially Colette, like your candor and honesty around like some certain things there. So yeah, thank you so much. Maybe like if I can just kind of, I feel like those address like a really more of like an almost like theoretical sort of spiritual side of things, but I'm curious also to understand like, you know, like like actually practically, how do y'all, when you're making decisions about things, like prioritize these different demands? And like, just because like as somebody who's done a lot of community organizing and a small smattering of electoral organizing, which Colette, I think you and I are very similar, in which we're not really super fans of that work, but we'll engage with it to the necessary degree, right? So, yeah, just from my past experience organizing, right? Like it's always, the question is, of course you're trying to build, you're trying to grow, you're trying to bring more folks in, but the reality is at the time you're struggling with limited resources, limited hands, limited time. So yeah, like, and I understand that like maybe that's a little bit too much of a question, like kind of ripping back the curtains, but I am like super, super curious to like know, like, within the group that y'all have right now, how are those decisions kind of worked out?
I'm gonna go ahead and speak on one little piece here. We had this discussion 2 Thursdays ago about how the Green Party of Arizona has approximately 25 members that vote regularly. And so we would just need a group of 20 to 30 young people in the Green Party that are voting eligible to like take over. And like, I'm pretty radical in my beliefs. Like, I'm one step away from being ready to be the cook for when the revolution starts. You know what I'm talking about? But in the meantime, while everyone's pushing for peace, I'm here to just be like, hey, let's just gather our friends, gather our like-minded people. We don't even need that many, and just take over what's going on with the Green Party here in Arizona, and use the structures and things that are already in place, the resources the Green Party already has to sort of push our agenda and actually get things done. And so I know some people that would be a lot, but other people, in that electoral end of things, I think we'll find that if we gather a few extra people and a few of our friends or whatever, then we can do something like that. And then that makes that so much easier, because I think sometimes when you look at the electoral end of things, it just seems exhausting because we're accustomed to people who don't listen and just talk about nothing. And so if we jump in and actually ourselves start making those changes from within, and we can use the resources that are already sort of available. So I just wanted to throw that out there. George, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. To use all our tools, like you said, we only need like. It's, I know it says like we only need, but it it isn't that many of us that would be needed to be able to go in and use the systems that are there. Because I personally find it really disrespectful for people to occupy space and not use it to its full potential, when there are things that could be done, and for people to occupy the space and use it to silence younger voices, especially, or voices of color, just the voices that don't necessarily fit into the white patriarchal, colonial structures. Like, that's not how progress will be made. So even within the systems that we would expect there to be solidarity, there isn't. So it kind of just shows like the work that we need to do, but it's also kind of a simple thing to do in the shorter aspect of it, if that's within our own state aspect, the state level. So that's why I'm really excited to like just gather more people that are like-minded in this eco-socialist realm of thinking, and address the issue of people occupying space and not getting things done, and not listening or embracing the voices. Over.
Cody Stack.
Colette?
Thank you, Natalie. I kind of felt a little bit inspired by both of y'all. So one of the things that I started thinking after Trump was elected was kind of like, I don't need to be qualified to do anything. because obviously you can get a job without one lick of qualification. And so it kind of inspired me to jump into places that I didn't think that I could be. And as a minority, I'm like, nobody else is helping me. There is no other group that is reaching out and telling me that you can do it, go out there and change it. I just need to go do it. And I'm not going to wait to be given permission to do so. And I'm not going to wait to be invited to do so. What I am going to do in this space is educate others who are like me, who don't realize that there is a way to make your voice heard. There is a way to go out and make a change, get them inspired, find ways that they can feel they're involved, and that'll grow the movement, because it's a huge burden trying to implement eco-socialism in a country that was founded on colonial imperialism and white supremacy. The more that we have, the easier that burden is to carry. So I'm just trying to be here to reach out to as many people as possible over the next months to be like, hey, you can join me, you can do this, because if you want a better future, you need to grab it by the balls and take it. Don't let anybody tell you that you need to wait. It's not soon enough to an election. It hasn't been long enough since an election. If you want something, just take it, because the people who founded this country didn't ask for permission. And why should I? Colette, over.
Thanks, Colette. Cody?
Yeah, so I think to sort of go back and address the original question of how we currently, the 4 co-founders, are prioritizing what needs to be done. Right now, we are getting out of the gate of starting this caucus. So the biggest thing for us right now is growth, education, outreach. Once we have more people, we can do more in the action realm. We can do more petitioning. We can do more, trying to help out local mutual aid drives, but that all takes people power. And right now, the immediate hurdle we have is just getting more people on board and more people activated. So I hope maybe that's a little bit more of like what you were asking. Over.
Thanks, Cody. I just want to add on something that was relevant to what I said earlier, in that in the last couple months, I joined the Green Party of Pima County, and the steering committee now has 2 members that are under the age of 30, and that's Colette and myself. And so just within a short amount of time, we were able to make sort of, our voices are now being heard in a way that like they weren't before. And now there's 2 more open positions within the Green Party in some different respects, because 2 women just like resigned their position. So like right away I'm thinking, what friends of mine, in the Green Party would I like to see in a position like minority outreach representative, or whatever that other position was that happened. So I just think that just in a short amount of time, you can get a lot done. And this is the time to do so, right? I think a move towards really pushing for a third party on the left side is super crucial, with, Democrats being in the middle, and the Republican Party itself being all split up and everything. So this is the time to do it. And like, I've just been showing up and things are happening. So I don't think it's all easy or anything. I am a woman of color. I know everything's a bit of a struggle, but I've been sort of happily surprised. And I just wanted to put that out there.
Colette,
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all for all those answers. I really appreciate that. I think like all of what y'all just had to say like really gives me a much better idea like who y'all are as a group and what your goals are, and I super appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Colette?
I wanted to kind of bring up what I just put in the chat. I want to ask the group if there's anything that you have reservations or concerns about, because one of the things that I think is really important is if you're like, still on the fence, what is it that concerns you? What are things that we can do to improve our message? And I don't know, I just want to kind of have a dialogue, because I want to know what people are thinking and feeling, and I want to allow this group to encompass more than just what our 4 ideas are. And I don't want anybody to feel alienated. So I would like to open the floor. Is there anyone here who has concerns or reservations?
Trey, Stack.
Go ahead, Trey.
I wanted to ask about the dues. Like, I'm not super sure about that. Like, who does that go to? You know, where is that like resourced over?
I can answer that. So the dues that are paid by Young EcoSocialists go to our national caucus. Basically, we are, I believe, one of the only Green Party national caucuses that is dues paying. So we are like a budget line of the GPUS overall budget. But as a state chapter, once we are, official and accredited, we have at least 5 voting members and at least the basics of a steering committee. Some of that money comes back to us as a state chapter to help us do what we're doing locally. So that is where that money goes to. So some of it pays for the organizing tools that we use. Like we use Basecamp throughout the Young EcoSocialists. It's a sort of a team management software thing. We use typically we'll use Blue Jeans as a video conferencing tool instead of Zoom. Zoom, the National Caucus has some issues with because they sort of work with the feds. Long story. Anyway, but yeah, your dues pay for all of those tools at the national level, and then some of them come back to us as a state chapter once we are officially accredited. Over.
Did that answer your question, Trey?
Yeah, more or less that answers it. Thank you.
Okay. Dan?
Yes, hello, Dan. I was wondering in regards to your decentralization from your core tenets, is that a response to democratic centralization when you're referring to that?
I can answer that if you want. Hello, it's George. George, Stack. Sorry.
Go ahead, George.
I guess it kind of just decentralizing in the fact that making things work more towards everyone. Just addressing inequality of wealth and power. Decentralizing those forces so that they're not able to continue perpetuating in injustice ways. Just like restructuring sorry, it's kind of like, I'm kind of just thinking out loud, but it's all encompassing in the way that it's the green perspective is seeking to, restructure the social and political and economic institutions. Because, for example, we see it in the way that the power grid in Texas, for example, it is something that's privatized. So people suffered because of a private greed, a private interest. And so by decentralizing those interests away from the resources that we use the most is how we can combat inequality. So I guess it's by addressing the way that capitalism privatizes everything and commodifies everything. Housing, water, electricity, all the resources that we need. I hope that answered your question.
Colette, Stack, I have another answer if you'd like to hear it.
Go ahead, Colette.
So I did plug this into the chat so anyone can pull it up. The link goes to describing what all of the 10 key values are. So under the decentralization, what we want to do is restructure the social, political, and economic institutions away from the system that benefits the powerful. So decision making has to be at an individual, local level to make sure that everybody is being representative and to kind of take out that bureaucracy. Over.
Thanks, Colette. And I just want to add one thing about centralization, just in general, just by its nature ends up hurting minorities, right? Because we get left behind. And I'm sure that, you know, if you're a minority in any kind of way, you understand that. And, you know, I'm in this special circumstance as, you know, a queer person, as a Black, Native, disabled. You know, I know, and I've talked to many people in the community about how this bureaucracy and centralization has really harmed our communities. And, you know, I'm struggling with that right now, dealing with the child protective services and foster care system. I've spent 51 weeks right now trying to get custody of my niece from California. And it still hasn't happened, you know, and that's part of the centralization issue. And it's just one thing. And it affects all facets of our life, facets of our life. So I had a point there. My bad. Sam, go ahead. Sam? Sam?
Sam, you might be muted.
Oh, dang. Do you want to type it in the chat?
I think she's leaving and then coming back in.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can come back to Sam. Do we have anybody else who would maybe like to speak?
Yeah, George Stack.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to point out, yeah, the role that like intersections of identities play in the, you know, in the marginalization of communities and the way that these systems work to oppress. And you know, I personally believe that there requires a deep, like a systemic answer to these kind of issues. And as someone who, you know, doesn't really believe that any, like I said before, any kind of government following the same structure will achieve justice, to me, these 10 values kind of offer like a glimpse of like, okay, these can probably be implemented within the system. It's looking to work within the system we have to deliver on these as solutions to the issues that capitalism gives. So, you know, as someone who upholding the same colonial structures kind of bothers me, and I don't wish to participate oftentimes, but this to me provides an answer. You know, we can gather people to dismantle the systems that don't function in our favor. And over.
Thank you, George.
Sam is
Sam?
back.
All right, she's going to try to leave and come back again.
All right.
I would like to ask a question to those of you who are visiting who might be members of the SR, the SRA, the DSA, like the other organizations that we've reached out to. What are some of your thoughts about what it is that we're trying to do here in this caucus? Over.
All right.
George
Sam,
Stack.
first, if Sam is able to right now, I'd like Sam to go first.
Okay, just one last try. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think my earbuds on my microphone just stopped working. Maybe I need to get a new one. Okay. I'm sorry. Are we still on the same topic?
We can be.
Okay, I just wanted to real quickly just answer that question of decentralization and what that means, or why the Green Party follows that through a political theory answer. If you're not fully aware of what eco-socialism is, it falls under the broader spectrum of libertarian socialism, which is, in the simplest terms, anti-authority and anti-capitalism from the libertarian and socialism perspective, respectively. So I would recommend, if you're interested in reading some theory, just to look up eco-socialism and the broader spectrum of libertarian socialism to get a better idea of what that really means. Anyways, over.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, I kind of, since really no one else was answering Colette's question, I don't mean to call anyone out, but I just was wondering, it's Trey, if I can ask you a question. I was meaning to ask you in what ways you believe that what the Young Eco-Socialists can organize in helping your movement in the Youth for Liberation movement. I kind of just wanted to get your perspective on how you view how we can come into play in helping promote the values that your organization wants to promote.
Yes, thank you. I was gonna answer that. I was waiting to see if anyone else was going to do it. But yeah, I know for our organization, we focus, as of right now, we're focusing a lot just on like education and just trying to, get more people in. We focus a lot on like students, but we kind of started up like coincidentally at a very bad time. Everyone's pretty busy with college, including myself. But I know that like the stuff that we want to organize around includes, just supporting other movements that are like-minded, supporting a lot of like abolition focused stuff, anything, anti-imperialist or just in that realm. And I've reached out to, like Puente Youth. I'm working with Poder Youth on Saturday, so I'm gonna talk to them about it too. But we're mostly just kind of networking right now, and at the same time trying to educate within our own organization. But mostly as of right now, I kind of just want I just want to know that, we have like support from other people, and that they know that, they have our support in return. And then, that would be good enough for me right now, honestly. Over.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely something that as a caucus, as we kind of mentioned before, we want to focus on is bringing those grassroots organizations and what they want to accomplish and be their voice, at the political level, if that makes sense as well, because oftentimes we see that within the two-party system, or the duopoly, any progress movement or grassroots movements kind of meets its dead end there. And the people who got those people elected don't see their agendas being met. And I think it's great that when other organizations reach out to us, because like I said before, I work with other groups as well, and that aren't necessarily focused in a more conventional political action, but they are doing mutual aid work or organizing their communities, and all of that comes into play, and bringing the two together, because I feel like they kind of exist in a world that is separate, but I feel like that's kind of ironic given that a government should function democratically, and for the grassroots movements that are on the ground to not be represented is the product of the way that the two parties kill democracy, and they actually work to silence other parties that would bring the other ideas to the table. And so we want to be that group of people that would bring the grassroots movements and their agendas forward. Over.
The stack is empty.
Alrighty. Well, I think we're just about getting ready to wrap things up. You can find us online at all of these places. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/YesGPAZ, Twitter at YesGP_AZ, Instagram is the same. The Young EcoSocialists National website is www.yesgp.org. We encourage you all to check it out and definitely go join up. And then if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns on anything, or if you just want to reach out to us, our email is yesgp.az@gmail.com. And we thank you all for attending. We hope to see you at our next meeting on March 11th.
Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Hope to hear from everyone soon and work with y'all.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming. This was really exciting for me. We worked really hard on our presentation, and we appreciate you for listening and engaging with us.